Welcome to the Planet 63 Virtual Business Matchmaking Show, the next evolution of discovering Philippine and U.S. made products and services. This is the show that helps create global sales opportunities and bring Philippine and U.S. made products and services go from local to global. Thank you for watching the show. And now, please welcome the host of Planet 63 from local to global, Ferdinand B. Soriano.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Planet 63's From Local to Global, the Experts Edition. Now, why do we call it the Expert Edition? On our regular show, it's all about the guest presenters. They present their products, and they're looking for tips, feedbacks, and hopefully a connection with potential buyers like wholesalers, distributors, and online retailers. Now, the majority of the time, those tips, those suggestions, and those feedbacks are given by the panel experts on the show. Now, in this edition, we want to focus on getting our audience to know the caliber and the level of experience that the experts that we have on the show. On this third episode of the fifth episode, I didn't realize we've been doing a lot of this already. The fourth episode, I should say. On this fourth episode of Planet 63 from Local to Global, the Expert Edition, we have someone in the logistics profession. Now, when we have exporters on the show, I think most of them want to know how to sell their products, right? But you need to know that, of course. Okay, it's a given. Now, it's equally important to also know how to get your products compliantly in the U.S. market, as well as the cost of doing the shipping. Now, all of that can be addressed by our guest today. Now, let me give you a little bit about a background on this gentleman that I'm very excited to introduce to all of you. Now, his main office is located in the Philippines. I originally met him at a global education event produced by the Cal State University San Bernardino Center for Global Management. He was contributing his time there to educate the attendees about the logistics part of international trade. He's very, very knowledgeable, as you can, you'll be able to witness that as I interview him, and willing to always share that knowledge to help exporters achieve their goals in getting their products to market. Now, he's the regional director of U.S. West, Southwest, and Mexico. I just want to make sure I got that right. That was established in 1992. And this company was a Taiwan-based freight forwarding focused on the Taiwan U.S. route. Now it's a global player with over 1,500 employees operating out of 70-plus owned offices in America, Asia, Europe, and South America, with over 10 years of experience in the supply chain and logistics industry, and also a graduate of the University of Maryland. He continues to efficiently serve numerous multinational companies and contribute to the amazing growth of Morrison Express. Now, please welcome the Regional Director of Morrison Express and a regular panel expert in our show, Planet 63's From Local to Global. Please welcome Eduardo Vargas. Eduardo.
How are you?
I finally got you to be able to come on the show. I know that every time we're on the show, my friend, you don't get a lot of airtime, so to speak, and nobody really understands how amazing and knowledgeable you are. Because here's the thing: I think each part of the panel experts bring a lot of stuff to the table, right? I think all of them are a very integral part to whenever anybody wants to export, right? So to me, you guys are all very important. So to me, also, each one deserves equal time. So that's why I wanted to make sure we get you onto the show. Now, how are you doing today? How was your day? We were talking off camera earlier, and you said you spent your day talking to being with your daughter today.
Yeah, yesterday was my daughter's birthday, but yeah, thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited. The airtime doesn't matter, Ferdinand, as far as we have fun and are able to contribute to your guest speakers and panelists and companies. I mean, I'm happy to be there. So thank you.
Well, no, and I appreciate that. As you know, this is probably going to end up taking their 30 to 45-minute show. So I sort of want to get into the questions right away. But, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with something simple in terms of the question? Now, obviously, you're on the show. You're a regular on the Planet 63 from Local to Global. I just want to go on record. What persuaded you to join it? Why did you want to devote some of your time to be on the show? And I'd appreciate if you could tell the audience also, so we can start off with that.
I guess you insisted too much, Ferdinand. But So
I
I
twisted your
really
arm. I twisted your arm.
really like the nature of the program, and I mean you're a matchmaking business, right, or company or program to kind of help companies, and
Mhm.
that to me that brings a lot of value because that's what we live out of, right? Like for Morrison Express also, we do try to contribute. I mean, our sales pitch is always like we want to help you out, like learn more, because if you go and push your knowledge, push your company, right? I mean, Morrison is very good company, but if you go push your stuff to others, then you're not gonna get that far, right? Like ideally, you get spaces where you can understand better, maybe contribute a little bit, and maybe some people are gonna say, "Oh, so now this is interesting, right? Lo, what you mentioned. So maybe we want to do more. Maybe we want to know more about this, and that brings opportunities, like not only for business but in life in general. So I guess networking also is something that I've been keen into always. So, and I mean, I appreciate and I admire actually what you do with your program. So I'm really honored.
Well, I just like I said again, I appreciate you being on the show. I did twist your arm, so that's okay. I just want the audience to know that I twisted your arm because he's a very important person in terms of his knowledge, and we're very blessed to have him on the show. So anyway, let's get to a little bit about your background. I want the people in the audience to know who you are, what you're about, and why you're amazing at what you do in terms of also being in the as a panel expert. So let's start off with the first question. How long have you been in the logistics profession, Eduardo?
I've been a little bit more than 20 years. Actually, I started at systems implementations. Like, I don't know if you heard about SAP, but when you implement these systems, you get to mingle with the real life operations. And I remember racing with the pallet jacks with friends. I mean, I was young, so it was fun. But at the same time, you learn, right? Like when you are at a warehouse or at a distribution center, or even at an
Mhm.
office where people just move products and do transportation, then it's a good opportunity for you to learn from many people. At the end, I mean, nobody has the truth, right? Like you just learn different versions of how things are done, and then there's when you come up with, I don't know, some sort of knowledge that you can maybe help out with other people.
Well, what I looked at your background and it's diverse, but obviously you're always about project management. I noticed your background on that. So there's a lot of things that you do. And by the way, if anybody's watching, the show and you guys have some questions for Eduardo about, logistics, supply chain, in regards to the U.S. market and beyond and all that, please go ahead and chime in and ask a question on the platform. So, and also, by the way, just as a reminder for people just tuned in, you are watching Planet 63's From Local to Global, the expert edition, and we have Eduardo Vargas today with Morrison Express. So we're on our second question now. As far as with what you do, you've been in the profession for a while, so you've had your shares of ups and downs, customers that weren't happy, customers that were ecstatic, and all of that. And you continue to be that type of an individual that likes to help people. So my question is, how can you be of help to exporters right now, especially to the newcomers in the export industry for the U.S. market? How do you get them acclimated? How do you make them feel better? How do you encourage them to want to do more exporting, especially, obviously coming from another country or even just in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, exports take a lot of courage as well. I mean, especially from the U.S. You know that U.S. is not the largest exporter in the world. It's totally the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the way we contribute is probably with knowledge from other exporters. Like for instance, U.S. There's a lot of semiconductor manufacturing. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you've seen, but
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, a lot of technology done in China and Mexico or wherever, but the most advanced, I mean, like the chips and the microprocessors or circuit boards specific to maybe customized to specific needs are made here. I mean, there are plants in Arizona, north of the, I mean, the North Pacific Northeast or
Mm-hmm.
Northwest, and then also the border, and even in the Midwest. So there's a lot of exporting from here for a specific technology that is very advanced, that is not necessarily done in other countries.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of automotive as well. Like, I mean, OEMs, like they're gonna have a lot of exchange in between plants here. Like, I mean, General Motors and brands, even like foreign brands like Volkswagen and Audi, they will have exchanges between the plants here and plants in Mexico, plants in Germany and other, even in China, right? So those I guess that experience brings a lot of knowledge in, to your point, like paperwork, the specific I would say experiences when something failed, and then small exporters and newcomers to the industry, they're gonna value those anecdotes, right? Like, not because it's maybe fun to learn, but also to apply and to, I would say, accelerate and maybe save some time, right? So ideally you get to this point where you save yourself from issues and things that happen to other companies, and then you say, okay, so I'm gonna leapfrog from this state to the new phase quickly, right? And ideally I don't get to make mistakes as other companies make. So that's what we contribute with the most.
Well, a lot of the things that you just mentioned, what scares a lot of people, because right now I just sense that there's a lot of people who want to do importing, exporting, but more also on creating a business online for e-commerce, right? So to me, when we have people on the show and you talk about how much it's going to cost to do certain things, how much is it, what do you need to do compliantly to bring that product into the US? Those are the things that they need people like yourself who have the patience, who's very knowledgeable, who's already experienced, because it that's the scariest part to me, having it on a ship or a plane,
Yeah.
and knowing that you spend so much money and you don't know if it's going to get here.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. So if anything else, it takes a certain personality like yours, or like very calm, hey, it's
Hey,
not like,
everything's good.
can you imagine? Can you imagine if you're like it's so hyped up and you're stressing out? You would stress out a lot of people. You pull your hair, and it looks like you still have a lot of hair. So
Yeah.
you probably don't do a lot of that, right? So okay,
Exactly.
I get it. So right now, the what you do is the thing that I've always known about you is that you always share the knowledge, and I think any new exporter, that's what they look for, someone who can just really help them out, along that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we sell services at the end, right? Like, is we don't sell any tangible product, right? So at the end, it's more like our knowledge is. I mean, it is as simple as a plumber, right? You call a plumber, you can do it yourself, but if you call a plumber, you're gonna make sure you do it with the right materials, with the right knowledge, and the right timing. You can spend your whole weekend there, and it might not work. Then the next weekend you need to do it again, right?
Well,
So
if you see the way I try to fix things, I think it's almost the same, but I know it's not, right? Because to me, my biggest fear is like, oh my God, I'm doing. If you use that plumber analogy, you have the water happening, and you're going to waste a lot of water, or you're going to do something to the house because you can damage it. But I think it's all, yeah, like you said, it's almost the same fear, because here you are, you have it on a ship or you have it on a plane,
yeah.
and you're fearful until it gets there. You're wringing your hand trying to figure out, oh man, is it going to get here, or is that going to be a problem? And those are the hard part, that you need someone like that, like you, who's willing to give them some peace of mind.
Yeah, and the damages are expensive. I mean, more expensive than a plumber situation, because I mean, if you don't have the right license, you don't. I mean, everything goes well. It's like life, right? Everything goes well until
Uh-huh.
something comes wrong, and then when something goes wrong, you don't want to have that letter from the IRS or from U.S. Customs saying, "Oh, you owe us." There's a penalty, Ferdinand, for $5,000, right? And then you're like, what? Like, I don't even know if I'm gonna make that profit from my business. Like, and now I'm gonna pay 5,000, right? So you need to be mindful, and it's a lot of combination of products, situations, import exports. So ideally, you're advised by somebody or a company who has done it before. Yeah.
Great. Now, I'm always trying to be specific so that whoever's watching us not only can get a feel for your knowledge and your expertise, but I want to be specific, okay, and maybe something applicable to the show that we're doing. So let me ask you this question: what are the most common problem that you see that are being encountered by exporters now, and how do you think your company and yourself can help them? So I guess what I'm just basically asking is maybe tell a story of the most interesting problem that you have to encounter, and especially for a new exporter. Yeah, let's focus on the new exporter. At the end of the day, the people in our show, they're trying to get here to the US and vice versa, so they have no
Right.
idea. So let's focus on that. Let's you tell me your side of that as far as what do you encounter with most of these first time exporters.
Yeah, I guess I will tell you about two things very important. One is the routing, how do you route your product, including the transportation mode, right? And also the other part is the rules of thumb, because I mean, rules of thumbs is like when you wanna export, I don't know, microchips or textiles or whatever commodity, and then you have, I don't know, like a pallet, right? This is a small pallet, so but well, it's just a
I
depiction
like
of a
that. I
pallet.
want one of those.
Yeah. So you have one pallet. Then maybe if you transport this air or ocean, at the end it's the same because it's so light and it's just one unit, right? So then it's very little. So one pallet is just unless your product is very valuable. I mean, it's gonna eat up a lot of transportation cost for a really low or small quantity of your product. So obviously, and um, this is economies of scale, right? Like if you have a container or 10 containers, obviously your cost is going to be blended better throughout your product cost. So at the end, the product cost, I mean, at the end, it's all about the product cost, right? Like
Correct.
it's different shipping, I mean, cosmetics compared to iPhones, right? Like, I mean, this values 1,000 and this is probably like $5. So,
Hmm.
but they probably have similar weights, right? Like at the end, the transportation cost is going to be similar,
Yep.
but in this case, you can do air freight, and there's no impact on your selling rate or on your profit. But if you do a lot of air freight on cosmetics, it might not be that good, right? So at
Cost
the end,
effective.
it's all about your money. So and that also comes together with the routing. Like if you're in the Midwest or the East Coast, is different from being in LA. I mean, LA is obviously the best place suited to ship to Asia, like the Philippines, for instance. But
Hmm.
if you're not close in the LA area, then you need to truck it from somewhere, right? Like either, I don't know, Atlanta, Texas, or whatever your product is. And
Hmm.
there's when you're gonna encounter different options, right? And if it's trucking, even if it's trucking, there are different flavors, and it's like eating a cake, right? Like you like cheesecake, or you like, I don't know, I mean, or you like a cake that is very good but not that expensive, or you like the best of breed, right, of the cakes like ever, but it's gonna cost you a lot, right? So
Hmm.
at the end, it depends on who pays as well, because if you're paying by yourself with the aim of selling this to somebody else that you haven't defined yet who's going to be the buyer, then you're going to invest. But if
Hmm.
this is for a client and the client says, Ferdinand, I want this for yesterday and I'm gonna pay for it, then go for it. Like I can fly it, right? Like I can fly it from the East Coast to LA or the East Coast to even the Philippines directly, as far as somebody's gonna pay, right? So it
Right.
depends also what the terms you sell your product with.
I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could get into in what you just said, because at the end of the day, there are a lot to what you do. But the one thing that I always get asked, and maybe just you give your perspective, because I think a lot of people, when they think about shipping, because again, like I said to you, there's people that are either drop shipping or they're sourcing, they're looking for products, and they don't know if they want to bring in a lot of that product yet. So that's why I want you to sort of address what a less than container load is and a full container load, LCL or FCL, because a lot of people think that if they find a product, they have to buy so much of it when technically they can't. So just briefly, before we move on to the next question, address that part and how that's usually um, a way to bring in products without having to buy the whole container first. You know what I mean? Just so that they can get an
Exactly.
idea if a product is actually going to sell well, right? So
Yeah,
go ahead
yeah.
and address that.
That's a great point, because lately, Ferdinand, and especially with e-commerce business, you don't need to send the whole container. Actually, some sellers, even for instance, Asian sellers, right? Not is like more importers into the US. They sell their product in a website, and you just ship the parcel and put together the parcel in Asia, in China, or in Hong Kong, or in the Philippines, at a labor rate that is a third or a tenth of what it is in the US, right? Even in LA. So LA is very expensive, right? So
Mhm.
the parcel can come directly to your client, and at the end, you don't even ship a pallet. You're just shipping parcel by parcel, right? Obviously, there is less economy of scale there, but you're gonna, at the end, if the client is willing to pay, and if the mode is okay, and the lead time is long enough for you to don't pay much, the client's gonna pay for sure. So obviously, I mean, full containers, you're in command of your product cost, of your transportation cost. And if you have a warehouse in LA, then you just get the product there and ship parcels from everywhere. Maybe you save a lot of money, right? But LCL, less than container loads, then it's just one pallet or two. It's gonna be more expensive, but at the end, you're gonna save money from having inventory, because depending on the turnover of your product, like a product like this, right? I mean, I buy it today. In 6 months, this is gonna have half of the value or less, right? Because then
Mhm.
this year in September, Apple is gonna issue the new one. So guess what? I mean, the new one is gonna be 1,000.
It's
Suddenly, this one is gonna be nothing, right? So you need to be
it's
mindful
ridiculous.
of that.
It's ridiculous, but it's the truth. But after the show, I need to talk to you about what you just said. I didn't know that part. Okay, because what's happening is that, and probably in a lot of other countries, a lot of Philippine manufacturers, they want to be here. They want to sell the products here, but sometimes they're a little hesitant about sending even a pallet. Sometimes if they know that it hasn't being sold. But you just describe a method in which they can come up with something a little bit smaller, right? In
Exactly
terms
right.
of, but I didn't know that. So I'm going to talk
Yeah.
to you after the show, because I'm trying to get more Philippine products in here without them having to be scared. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're trying to sell something. You need to have the products here. That's the bottom line. You can only do so much with virtual, okay? But you need to get the products here. It's just a question of how much and where are you actually marketing it. So if you're telling me that there's a system where they can save even more money, less than container load type of scenario, yeah, I think you need to definitely market that. I'm going to market that to some of the Philippine manufacturers that I'm dealing with now.
Yeah, and they don't even need to. I might be overriding your legal advisors, Ferdinand, and sorry about that, but they don't
Mhm.
need to even open a company here in the U.S. Like, I mean, I have my clients who they are you. I mean, you probably know this already or not, but you're legally an importer of record into the U.S. being a company in the Philippines. You don't need much more. So you can
Mhm.
be registered in the Philippines and fill out a customs form that says, I'm Philippines company with this tax ID in the Philippines. I want to be an importer of record in the US. And the US
Mhm.
is like, Ferdinand, you're more than welcome, because we're in the US. We're welcoming imports. So you don't need to set up a US company. As far as you have a warehouse like Morrison or any other, or you rely on Amazon, and then you ship your product there, your consignee is a warehouse, then you're fine. So obviously you need to sell it, and then later on have an entity or a legal process, right? But then
Well,
for bringing it here, you don't need all that set up in advance.
no, honestly, I think that's a good point, because of the fact that sometimes they just want to see. I think what most of our counterparts in a show, they're thinking more like in the long run, in
Long
terms of,
run.
like, for example, I know in Amazon they would require somebody's name or a corporation, right? And also to a certain degree FDA. But I think, like when Udell gets on there and all are legal, they talk about that. I think more like from a down the line kind of thing, but like a long term plan. But what you're just saying is exactly what I'm always trying to promote, because I just want the products here. I just want them to try
Exactly.
it here.
Exactly.
And if that can be done and it's legal and all that good stuff, then we need to emphasize that more, especially with maybe another show or whatever, but I need to talk to you about that. And I'm doing it on the air, telling you that we need to
Yeah.
sort of, for lack of a better word, we use the word exploit. Okay. Anyway, everyone, the people that are watching us, you are watching Planet 63's From Local to Global, the Experts Edition. You are listening to Eduardo Vargas of Morrison Express. He is talking about logistics. We don't, because he doesn't get a chance to really expand on the things that he's saying, but that's okay. It's only an hour show, and his role is to just give some feedback and tips, and also he's open for questions. So if anybody watching out there wanting to ask him questions, please feel free to do that. Go ahead and text us in whatever question that you may have. But in the meantime, I want to show you guys a video of awesome Morrison Express is, how big they are. So for a good minute, maybe a minute and a half, let's watch a little bit of video on who Morrison Express is. So check this out and hope you enjoy it. And we're back. This is Ferdinand Soriano, Planet 63. You are watching Planet 63's From Local to Global, the Experts Edition. And today we are interviewing one of the panel experts of the show From Local to Global, of course, Planet 63 show. And we are excited to have him here only because he gets to talk a little bit more, expand on the things that he says on the show. And you just finished watching a bit of a, promotional video from his company and what they're capable of doing, and it's amazing. So let me bring him back on. He's a regional director for Morrison Express. Again, I'd like to bring back now he's becoming a good friend, getting to know him a little bit more. Eduardo Vargas. Hey, Eduardo, you're welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great video. Thank you for showing it.
No, I like watching that because I'm rocking out on the music. It's cool.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
The purpose obviously is just to show everyone the magnitude or the size of Morrison Express and what it can do for the exporter, whether you are a seasoned exporter or somebody who's just starting out. And if they paid attention to the video, you take them from the shipping part, for the fulfillment part, the 3PL, and you pretty much do everything, and that's what the video was supposed to be. So anyway, again, with that said, thank you for being here, and we have two more questions that I want to ask you. So we discussed who you are, what the services you provide, and your mindset about it. So now let's talk about let's make this interview relevant. Let's talk about what's happening in the world of shipping and how COVID is affecting it. So my question to you is that how do you right now do you see international commerce, lately in the future, or and also in the future with current COVID situations and the trade war between China and US, without us getting into any sort of a political kind of a discussion, because it's not
Yeah.
what's that about. I just want to know how everybody's going to be affected in terms of the trade.
Yeah, we don't want to go to jail, Ferdinand, so we need to be careful what we talk about. But yeah,
Exactly.
in general, I mean the trade war. I mean, it's not over, but it's kind of it just slowed down, right? Because the new administration is not issuing new duties or taxes, but the last one, it was really demanding. I mean, for companies like us to classify products, because imagine that U.S. and any country, right, has a classification for this, another for this,
Yep.
and another for a pen. So those and you have thousands, right? Like I mean,
Hmm.
hundreds, and then
Yeah. Each.
suddenly there's somebody that says, Ferdinand, from the thousand something, I'm gonna change this many, like 400, and then it's going to be 25%, and then you're like, oh, okay, so you need to go in your system and reclassify, right, and say, oh, 25 instead of 0. But then at the end it's like, oh, so what exactly are you bringing, Ferdinand? Are you bringing this or are you bringing this? Because it's very similar, right? Maybe
Hmm.
different. So at the end it's like, and if you do that once, then it's a lot of work. But what happens if you do that 4 6 times a year? Then everybody's crazy, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not because of the nature of the duties or any political thing, but it's a lot of work. I mean, reclassifying and changing things is a lot of work. So now you do it repetitively, then everybody becomes crazy and a lot of errors, room for error, right?
Well, the reality is that there's a lot of room for improvement in the industry in terms of streamlining it. Obviously, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It drives a lot of economy in the Philippines. I've always been a proponent of telling them that if Philippines is going to thrive, one of the things that they have to do is really invest in doing exporting, because that's the only way they're going to uplift the country, and not the only thing, but one of the ways to uplift the country. But obviously there's still a lot of red tape or whatever you want to call it that hampers that improvement even in the US. I mean, there's a lot of things that we could still change in the US.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is like this disturbance, COVID, right? I mean, whatever the nature of the virus in each country is different, right? Like, I mean, in the US, you heard Biden saying it's gonna be business as usual since June, and
Hmm.
people are lifting the mandate for masks, while in Taiwan and Singapore they're closed, they're in lockdowns again because there are 15 more cases
Hmm.
in the entire country. So every country focuses on a different approach, right?
Hmm.
But in general, it's hurting the air freight. I mean, not the air freight, but the air passenger industry, and
Hmm.
also the ocean freight, right? Because at the end, these planes are not flying anymore. I mean, half of the fleets for any airline are down, and that pushes the airlines for selling at a higher price, right? Because it's less capacity.
Correct.
But at the same time, you and I are at home, Ferdinand, and we don't drive. Our cars don't get that much used.
Hmm.
We don't spend money in the restaurant because even a few weeks ago it was closed, so we don't even go there.
Hmm.
We don't travel. Our families don't. So I mean, we save a lot of money, right? And what the average American, or in any country, right? What they do when you save money, and then you buy, right? I have a lady at the office who showed up, and she's like, Eduardo, I bought like 5 pair of shoes, new ones, right? And I'm like, Cindy, but you're not going anywhere, right? Like it's lockdowns and it's COVID, right? No, but I like shoes, and then I need to buy them, right? So okay, so people buying. The port of Long Beach, Ferdinand is saying that they have 30 to 40% more product than last year this time. So year over year is 30 to 40% more. And at the same time, it's less crews and less people at the port or the airport as well, because it's COVID, right? Like before you had like 4 people together working on something, you cannot, because they need to be 6 feet separate. So now
Hmm.
it's only one guy or two. but you have the same amount or more. So then physical handling of product is more challenging. So now you have vessels on the water waiting there. You have the airport congested. So everything is congestion, and also unemployment is bringing people to stay at home, and they get paid by the government. So when I need truckers, I call them. They're at home. They don't want to come, right? Because they're at home getting money. So why should they come? And that
Well,
brings the price twice as much, right? So it's complicated.
well, at the end of the day, you and I have discussed that numerous times, the challenges that we have. And the thing that obviously I'm very hopeful for with everything going on is that I feel like there's this going to be the, at least in my mind, pent up demand that you're just trying to, everybody's just trying to iron out, fix it, and everything. Like you said, each country is different. And the common denominator is obviously if you're going to get the global economy going again, everybody has to have a certain way of dealing with it and being able to loosen up a little bit and get people to go to their country, start shipping stuff. But I think for the U.S., yes, that there's the delay, but I'm hoping that we can be still somewhat of a beacon of hope for a lot of people wanting to export their products into the US, because yeah, we're saving money, right? We're saving money, definitely, but people also want to spend money, but they just want to spend it on things that maybe are interesting or unique or whatever. So to me, even though I see a lot of challenges, I always try to see the silver lining. And I'm not saying that you didn't see that. I'm just saying that those are hard facts, what you're describing. It's just that nobody knows when it's going to be over, but everybody just has to stay hopeful, especially for a lot of other countries that may be hurting. And right now, Philippines is challenged also, along with other countries. So you just keep doing it, and that's where your personality comes in, and you try to give them the proper expectation, and always be transparent, because that it is what it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny the what you mentioned, because this situation brings needs for specific things that if you exploit or understand, then for instance, I have a client in Taiwan, and it can be in the Philippines as well. Like they manufacture these camera stands, or we to hold your phone, because a lot of conference calls right now, like, and not everybody has a computer, that you might be with your cell phone in your car. So you have this stand specific holding here to with an arm that is kind of articulated, right? And then you can guide the phone, and then so that type of company, Ferdinand, is booming, because
Yeah,
everybody wants that. I mean, and
yeah,
it's silly, right? But this company owner was like, well, I'm making the business of my life, because I'm manufacturing these things and everybody wants them, and it's
yeah,
good quality, good price. I mean, who doesn't want that? I need that, because I find myself at home, and then, or at the car, and I have my cell phone, and I need to look good. I don't want to be holding it with my hand, right? So, I mean, if it's like $10 piece of equipment, then I'm gonna buy it, right? So it's
well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I like reality, but you also have to have that mindset that where there's chaos, there's opportunity also. It's just that sometimes all of us may be challenged in trying to find that, and it's human nature. But I've learned enough that I can confidently say that with a smile on my face and say, I really believe that. It's just that we're all just challenged and trying to figure out where the opportunity lies, but there's always opportunity. So speaking of opportunity, e-commerce is a big thing, and you sort of discussed that already. So why don't we end the show with that last question? Okay, so the question that I wanted to ask you is that how is e-commerce shaping up lately for regular US and Asian household? What do you think the future will bring, in terms of that? Because your industry is what drives all of that. I mean, people can make it, but if you can't bring it here and there, it doesn't matter. So just, that'll be our last question for this session of our interview. So give me a little bit of your take on that.
the e-commerce. Ferdinand is here to stay and is shaping up the world. Like, if you think about it, if I were to ask you, what will be the country with the largest e-commerce numbers or volumes in the world? Would you know that?
Well, no, I'm always going to guess. I always keep thinking China, but I don't know.
Yeah,
And US, of course. I'm just saying. Yeah.
yeah. So US in the, I guess in the late 90s and the 2000 something, early 2000s, it was the largest, right? But now it's China, and it's irreversible because China is so big. I mean, the e-commerce volume in the US is about $560 billion a year. So
Mm-hmm.
it's huge. Countries like the Philippines is probably an 8 billion to 10 billion industry a year. So
Mm-hmm.
for you to see the scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And China is 780 to 800 billion a year. So it's
Mm-hmm.
much more, it's 50% more than the US. And the trend is like it's going crazy. And China, I mean, Alibaba and all these companies creating these needs for e-commerce. Not only, I mean, working on e-commerce, but they set up this day, Ferdinand, because in the US, guess which one is the best, I mean, or most highest volume day for e-commerce?
I don't know. You tell me.
Black Friday, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
everybody wants to buy electronics, or
Yeah.
Cyber
Yeah.
Monday. So those numbers pale. Like they're nothing compared to what in China is called the 11/11, so November 11th, Singles Day. And Singles Day is a tradition for Chinese because Chinese policy for one child policy per family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the result of that in the last 30 years or 50 years is like there's more men than women. So hence a lot of single people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Singles Day, and Singles Day is like 10 times the volume of Black Friday, Ferdinand, in China. So to the point that the number of packages going around is like 2 billion packages in one single day. And the money that you transact in that day is crazy. And any brand is allowed to obviously offer their products, right? So it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge day and market, and it's gonna continue growing, right? So it's not gonna stop. Households in the US or China or anywhere, right? Who doesn't want to just buy stuff and test it, try it? Like my wife can get the whole mall, Ferdinand, in one day, try it, and if she doesn't like it, she can return it for free. So I
Well,
mean,
well, that's what I'm saying about the whole market, like you said. E-commerce in itself is just by sheer numbers, you can't even compare it. It's just going to continue to grow. But obviously, to me, I don't know where this U.S. trade war is. Even if I did know, I'm not about to go ahead and give my opinion. But the reality for me is that that's why there's going to have to be a sort of a discussion again, and because obviously that would help out a lot of the U.S. exporters too, bringing their products to China, and vice
exactly.
versa, just because of that sheer number, and that's the reason why we stayed all that time. So I'm just focused on that aspect of it, but by sheer facts and all of the things that you said in terms of population, the buying power, and the potential for products to be sold there, the opportunity, yeah, that's undeniable. But I just like to think that the way U.S. exporters could take advantage of that is really do something in terms of making this whole thing manageable. I'm like sort of borderline. I don't want to be political about it, but I'll just stay with that. All right.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
that being said, I just want to go ahead and remind the audience right now that you guys have been watching Planet 63's From Local to Global, the Expert Edition. We've been interviewing Eduardo Vargas of Morrison Express. He's a panel expert in the show From Local to Global, Planet 63, and he's the regional director for Morrison Express, like I mentioned earlier. So that probably, that most likely wraps up our show. I want to thank you everyone for watching, and we want you to please continue to watch the show, the show Planet 63 From Local to Global. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and be notified when our next Planet 63 show comes on live. And by the way, if you are a Philippine or a U.S. manufacturer and you're interested in being on the show to present your product, do a little bit of live selling and presentation, please reach out to us at info@planet63.com or visit us at www.planet63.com. I will give you the last word. Well, maybe not the very last word, but any parting words, Eduardo?
Oh, well, Ferdinand, I guess my advice for everybody's like, I mean, follow your program, listen to advice at the end. I mean, you can have any business and any advice is valuable, right? Like what you can apply. And there are things that you generally know and understand and plan, but there are other things that you sometimes somebody tells you, oh, and this clicks, and then it's like, oh, this is a source for new business, source for new income. I mean, be mindful of that, right? Be always, I mean, in attention to new information, to new
Mhm.
products, new markets, and yeah, thank you for making this possible, Ferdinand, and for the program.
Well, we just have to keep building some sort of a educational bridge, mind you, or just a platform. And again, thank you for being a part of the show, not only the interview today, but also the show that we're on. That, like I said, the From Local to Global show, and keeping that credible because of your expertise in the logistics industry. Okay, Eduardo. All right, everybody. With that being said, have a great rest of the week. And the thing that I always like to say at the end of the show is, let's go global.